Welcome to BizTV's Beyond the Brand. I'm Kelli Phillips. Today we're joined by George Wood. George is a former addict and recovery activist who started a Tampa-based farm dedicated to providing a healing environment for those recovering from substance abuse. Stay with us. We'll be right back with more of BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Our first guest is a former addict and suicide survivor. He's become a non-traditional recovery authority. George Wood joins us now with more information on the work he is doing. Before we get into what you're doing now, give us a little bit about your background, where you grew up, what life was like, and how you got into what you are doing now.
Yeah, I grew up in a very tumultuous atmosphere where there was a lot of trauma, addiction, mental health issues, which I eventually fell into myself, and for many years struggled with substance use disorder, multiple suicide attempts, and really just an overall being lost in life before back in 2006 when I finally entered long-term recovery. And for me, that really means just turning my life around and finding a new sense of purpose where I was able to take the trauma that I'd been through, the addiction that I'd struggled with, and the suicide that I'd survived from to really start to walk with others, to help them as a pastor and a counselor, and really just a fellow journeyman on this thing we call life. Over the last 20 years, I started a recovery program called the Timothy Initiative, where I worked with men coming out of heroin addiction and mental health issues and homelessness, and found a lot of success in that, where we found men getting long-term, like 3, 4, 5 years sober on pretty regularly. And really that was based on this thing called community. And I've since went on to write a couple books about that, where just trying to help people in faith and science sort of come together to see a new way of walking with people through their struggles that is a little bit non-traditional, like the title says, and at the same time, seeing a lot of people become a version of themselves that they probably wouldn't have became otherwise. It's been a lot of ups and downs, but at the same time, a really exciting and wonderful journey.
What was that aha moment for you to get you into recovery?
For me personally, it was, and maybe this story has been told by many others, but I can tell you, I was literally walking down the street one day after after a failed suicide attempt. I came out of a psychiatric ward here in Tampa, was walking down the street and cried out to a God that I'd always believed in, but did not think could ever love me, and said, either kill me or do something different, because I do not think you're doing this for your own enjoyment. And it was at that moment that I actually got a phone call from a person that I'd met in a detox a year before, who said, "Hey man, are you okay? I was just praying and I felt like the Lord told me to reach out to you." And I literally found God in that moment. And at the same time was able to, he came and picked me up and took me to meet this old man who taught me about salvation. But it was in that moment that I realized my prayer was heard and there was actually hope.
And then that recovery process, how long did that take to get you where you are today?
Well, it started in 2006, and I would say it took up until about 15 minutes ago. It's ongoing. It's ongoing. It doesn't stop, and I think that's the part of recovery that most people don't understand, is that it literally is ongoing. You don't stop going through ups and downs and difficult moments, and the more you think that recovery is static and that it's just a point in time, the sooner you are to missing the whole point of it all, which it's a life journey of transformation.
So you're continually learning about yourself to stay on this recovery path.
Yeah, you have to be, because I think that otherwise we think that, we get sober and then everything makes sense. And we all know that's not true. You think that, oh, you marry the right person and everything makes sense. Well, we all know that's not true. We always have this mindset that the next thing is going to be the thing that makes everything clear, and it's not. And for a person like myself who struggled deeply with mental health issues, with substance use disorder, I know that every time I'm struggling with something, I tend to fall back into old patterns. And so for me, it's about digging deep to try to figure out why those specific patterns, why that specific way of thinking, and figuring out what triggers that and what brings that about. And it helps me become, I like to think, a better human being, but at the same time, it helps me to become the best version of myself.
Why is it, do you think, that you're on this path now where you want to help others who have been in the same situation that you've been in?
I don't think that recovery happens in a vacuum. I don't think that a person can go through life trauma and severe pain and suffering to come out of that for themselves. I don't believe that is what we're meant to do. And so for me, I've always been in a place of needing to help others, because otherwise the pain doesn't make any sense. The trauma doesn't make any sense. It's just suffering. It's just suffering for the sake of suffering. Why, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, the entire time of the past, however many years that's been, it's always been about turning it outward to help others from going to the same types of struggles that I've had. And for me, I'm a pastor. I'm a man of deep faith, and Scripture tells me that we are to comfort those that suffer in the same way that we've suffered. For me, it's, the sacred text tells me that's the way to live. And on a personal level, it just is the only truth that I can cling to, is that I have to be able to help others in order for me to carry on.
You've written several books, is that correct?
Yes.
And how do those help people?
Well, for me, I wrote a book called The Community Approach to Healing Trauma, and it's sort of the stories of the past, at that time, decade of living in the inner city with my wife, Julie, who is also in ministry, serving people herself, and living in the inner city in a highly impoverished area where there's a lot of addiction and mental health issues. And we've just lived in a way that our home is open to others, that our door is always open. And we've had the honor to walk with people through a lot of really complicated situations. And in the stories that I tell of the past decade, you don't see everybody make it. As a lot of people don't. They die, they end up back in mental health situations or jail. But the reality is they're still changed by being loved by another human being. You're still changed by loving the unlovable. And I think that in those stories, the feedback that I've gotten from the people that have gone through the book or the curriculum that comes with the book, that it's really helped them to see helping another person isn't about doing it perfectly. It isn't about succeeding in what you would even call success. What does it even look like? It's really just about being present in the moment for someone that's never had anybody be present in a moment for them. And so it gives them sort of the permission to try to love, even though it may end up painful or not working out the way that you think. And I think in those taking those chances, in really putting yourself out there, you also have the chance that you succeed, and you also have the potential to save another human being's life. And there's nothing more important to me than saving another human being. And if we can do that, then I think by all means we should take that risk.
And you've got a new venture that you've started, the Root Awakening Farm. We need to take a quick break, but when we come back, I want you to tell us all about that. Will you do it?
Absolutely.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back. And we're back with George Wood to talk more about his Root Awakening Farm. And George, when did you start this, and how did this idea even come to be?
Sure. Well, actually, it was birthed many years ago in a friend of mine, Dr. Amanda Sharp, who actually this is was her original idea. And back in 2018, she was working alongside me with an organization called the Sober Truth Project as we were sort of putting an outline of what that could look like together. And she mentioned this idea that eventually doing a farm for recovery. And I was blown away by the idea and wanted to be part of it should it ever come about. And she gave me a call last year saying, hey, it's time. I really want to move forward with doing a farm for those in recovery, specifically substance use disorder, but really recovery of any sort. And we set out over the past year just working on putting this project together, and I am just so excited because it is exactly what we need in the recovery space right now, where I know just from my years of doing the work that I do, there is not a big emphasis on things such as self-regulation, such as, working in the dirt and getting in touch with the earth and yourself at the same time. And it is something that has helped me in my journey of learning how to manage and deal with what's happening internally. And so we're really excited to finally be bringing this to the world.
So how does the farm help with recovery? I know you said working in the dirt, but there has to be more specifics as far as, is this time for you to self-reflect in your recovery?
Yeah, I think, it is. So here's the thing, when people typically go into recovery, they're really given just a handful of traditional ways that they're supposed to walk this out. And none of those ways are the ways that I walked out my journey, but that's a different story for another day. But there is a certain amount of nurturing that comes from being in the environment where people can reconnect with themselves, with nature, and with others by combining, the therapeutic benefits that come from working in the dirt and dealing with their health and recovery all at the same time. So it's sort of comprehensive, whether it is in the self-reflection or whether it is in body movement and dealing with, the tension and the trauma that is locked up in your muscles from years of being in substance use disorder through things like yoga or acupuncture, or learning how to sit in a moment of pain in a sauna or ice bath. And then at this, walking out of that with yourself sort of raw and taken apart, to then get your hands in the dirt and grounded and really touch, something that's been there since the beginning of time. And that moment of self-reflection in who you are as a person and the life you've lived and all of the aspects of how, we come from the dirt and one day we return to the dirt, and what are we doing with ourselves in this moment is really powerful beyond words.
Now, in addition to being in the dirt, don't you also have therapy with animals at the farm?
Well, right now we don't, but we are working towards animal therapy. Therapy is kind of a word that brings a lot of connotations to it. So really, working with the animals and seeing them, through birth and life and dying, once again, it's about the self-reflection. And we're not quite there yet, but we want to get to a place where one day it is part of our, everyday practices, because we see the benefit in that. But as we're just getting started out, it's more the farming aspect of it, the being in nature aspect of it, along with all of the, like I said, the acupuncture and the yoga and the aspects that help us deal with self-regulation. And don't forget, at the same time, we're doing all of this alongside others, right? And so there's a sort of communal bond, which is done at this same very moment. So simultaneously, through your struggles, you're struggling alongside another person, and you see there's hope in that.
Are you able, a lot of people, let's go back. A lot of people don't understand recovery. Recovery isn't something that happens overnight. So when you're talking about the Rude Awakening Farm, people are coming there and they're staying. Is there a certain length of time, or does it vary from patient to patient?
So what we're really aiming to do, which is also different than most places that are out there, as really being a day place, right? Where people can come through for the day, spend the day going through the different processes that we have, whether it be the farming or the wellness or the recovery aspects. But at the same time, it's just for the day. So then they go back to, in some cases, a recovery program that they're staying at, or even if it's their home, because we want to be a place that people also in long-term recovery can come to, not just the person that is in the moment of trying to get sober, but sometimes in my life, in my journey, even though you've been in recovery, you get to a place, a wall where you're no longer growing, or you're feeling yourself slipping back into old patterns like I talked about before. And so being a place for people that even in their journey, if it's been years that they've been in recovery, they can come and spend the day at the farm where they can reconnect. So available to all people on their journey of recovery.
Now, when we're talking farm, I'm also envisioning, planting and produce that comes with it. Is that something that you will offer or are offering to the community to come out and maybe purchase and help go back into your project?
Yes, absolutely. What we're, hoping to do, for example, is growing berries and peppers and making things like jam, and then being able to have the jam available to to the public to support the farm, and also to be able to taste something that was made by somebody that's gone through hell and back in their own life. But also having all the produce and things that we grow available, whether it's through a farm stand or farmers market. So it will be available in those ways as well. So we're excited for that.
Now, you're just getting started with this, but I know you can always use help. Everybody can always use help from the community. How can other people help you and help the farm and help those in recovery?
Absolutely. Well, how you can help us is you can go to our website at rootawakeningfarm.org, and we have questionnaires on there and ways for you to contact us. But more importantly, how you can help those in recovery, I think, is by continuing to learn, to realize if what you know about recovery is from TVs or movies or just some random person, you probably don't know a lot about recovery. And for me, when I think about recovery, it's not an individual's problem, and it's not just a family's problem. It's a systemic problem where in recovery, what you have is a person trying to reconnect. Because when you have addiction, what addiction really is the opposite of connection. And so if we can realize that what we're trying to do in a person's recovery journey is help them reconnect with society, the only way that a person can reconnect with society is if a society is understanding, loving, empathetic, and willing to learn about the struggles that an individual is going through. So how you help a person in recovery is by continuing to learn yourself, because one day addiction, substance use disorder will touch you and it will touch your family. I promise you that.
You just never know when that time may come. George Wood, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. And again, that website so folks can get more information about Root Awakening Farm.
RootAwakeningFarm.org is the website. You can go there. You can learn all about us, learn the work that we're doing, and also contact us.
Thanks, George. Really appreciate your time and best of luck on the farm and with what you're doing.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Thanks for watching BizTV's Beyond the Brand. Be sure to subscribe to the BizTV YouTube channel, where you'll find full episodes of this show, a 24/7 live stream, fresh BizTV content, and a few surprises each week to help you stay inspired.